So oil changed the world once, and AI may actually change it again. But what decides how we use that power and what it comes down to is stories. So I want to just go on record here by saying this isn't a tech demo where we're not talking about geopolitics. This is about two Americans right here retracing the history of Saudi Arabia. And what they've done here is they've actually created a best-selling book in Saudi Arabia called "A Line in the Sand." It's historical fiction, but it's a beautiful moment of storytelling. They did the research. They did it by hand, on foot, and what it is it's not just an adventure tale. It's also a celebration of the Saudi Arabian people, of the culture, of the history, and it really is just a beautiful book. So welcome, Miles Spencer and Wells Jones.
Adam, thanks for having us.
Of course. So just to kick it off here, what did you think about Saudi Arabia before you went on this fact-finding mission back in the aughts, 2007, 2008, something
Yeah, it
like
was
that?
really 2006, and Wells and I first began speaking about it perhaps in 2005. So, by way of background, we had been running a charity event, um, kayaking across Long Island Sound. This is not a surprise to anybody on this podcast. We're all involved in it. We had 1,400 people across 14 miles of open sea. That was pretty cool, and actually contributed to what were considered to be our events production chops, which came in handy in Saudi Arabia later. But it was at the end of one of these events when we're both exhausted, and Wells came through town and he said, "Hey, what are you reading?" I said, like, Seven Pillars of Wisdom, T.E. Lawrence. And so, why? And I said, well, 9/11, trying to figure out like what was really going on over there that would bring them here and do such a thing. And I was just impressed by the fact that T.E. Lawrence seemed to be, in my mind, the only Westerner that had been there to the Hejaz and during the Arab Revolt, etc., was revered and was able to actually bring that message and that understanding back to the West. It had never been done before. Little did I know, and later did we both find out that many of the people deployed there that we met had the book in their back of their rucksack. It was that important to the understanding the culture there. And so Wells, he's just like, I just read it too, right?
Miles, I was looking for a piece that I could do a solo performance. And I was thinking, and it came to me, Lawrence of Arabia, thinking Peter O'Toole, until I read Seven Pillars of Wisdom. And I found out that the true T.E. Lawrence was 5 feet 5.5. I'm about a foot taller than that. But the question you asked me, as I recall, is what do you think about what's going on in the Middle East? I said, well, the president has said mission accomplished, and now we're in deeper with different issues, weapons of mass destruction. He said, well, what do you think is really going on? I said, it's not the same world that T.E. Lawrence talked about. And so we decided that we wanted to go and see for ourselves. And we had to figure out a way to get into Saudi Arabia in order to get on the ground. And actually, after doing a lot of research on T.E. Lawrence, and very few, I mean, how many people do you think, Miles, has been to the Middle East and written about T.E. Lawrence? And
That's a
so
short list.
very short. And so we wanted to go and see with our own eyes. And we trained for 8 months and worked it out to get there. And part of that working out came through Miles's connection.
It was YPO in Riyadh that we were connected with at the very last moment through connections that I had in that organization, YEO and YPO. And because Wells and I and Adam had all worked on a show called Money Hunt, where entrepreneurs came on and pitched their ideas, we gave them thumbs up or thumbs down. Eventually, we gave them checks. You may think that that's Shark Tank, but we're the grandfather of Shark Tank. In any event, we got the invitation to speak in Riyadh, and that was our ticket.
Hmm.
And so at the end, they were very direct. They said, "Why did you come?" And I said, Nara bi a uniña, to see with our own eyes.
That's
I
right.
may have butchered the Arabic there, and I apologize. However, they got it, I mean, Arabic is a um, transliteral language where spelling doesn't matter that much and pronunciation is kind of close. So I'd probably get credit for it. In any event, we got done. They said, "Oh, very good. What else do you want to do here?" And then we told them we want to retrace the steps of T.E. Lawrence and Seven Pillars of Wisdom and trek from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia to Damascus, Syria, following his route in the Arab Revolt. And I
The
was like,
room
"Oh,
erupted. The room
absolutely."
erupted. My uncle. I'm going,
Oh, is that
uncle,
true?
grandfather. And you go, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm thinking, what's going on? They say they knew T.E. Lawrence. Well, he was a charlatan. So, I mean, there was all kinds of
Interesting.
reactions.
Yeah, but in general, Laurence,
Oh,
everybody knew them. And generally, here's what's interesting, and obviously we've done a little bit of history on this. Um, the Arab Revolt was basically a second front against the Ottoman Turks who controlled Mecca, Medina, the holy sites of Islam at the time. It's 1918, 1919. And Lawrence was sent by the English to basically get a troop of Bedouin Arabs together. Not easy. Watch Lawrence of Arabia, great movie to try to give you the background on that.
Sure.
Look, gold coins didn't hurt, but he essentially put together a group that ended up being the Hashemites. And the Hashemites ruled the Hijaz. They were kind of totem rulers because the Ottomans really controlled it all. And they made it to Damascus. Well, the last Hashemites are in Amman, Jordan. That's the king of Jordan, and the Saud kingdom came in behind him and basically controlled the peninsula by the 1920s. Having said that, they still love Laurence and the history. He's a hero. He's not like, hey, you backed the wrong jockey, right? It's, yeah, he's a hero.
Okay, interesting. I wasn't sure if he was still respected or if he was sort of seen as kind of this
Our
British
experience
guy that
all
comes
the
in.
way up to the prince was, and by the prince, I'm speaking about Prince Khalid, which we'll get into later. They all loved him.
Yeah.
It was like, and
there was
so
respect. There was definitely respect.
Okay.
And mostly because this guy, he was a kid. He had come with a background where he had been on a Carchemish dig for several seasons and he learned Arabic and
Yeah.
he learned about the people and he loved them. He loved the region. He understood the tribal nature of the Bedouins
Mhm.
and they absolutely loved him because he was a Westerner and he was talking their language.
Mhm.
And so when it came time to work this out, to find a leader within the Arab Revolt, which was a part of the Hussein family, it was Faisal, who later became the first king of Iraq. And so Lawrence had background enough and to be selected to seek this leader within the Arabs because they needed to have a leader to fight on this front, the Germans and the Ottomans.
Sure.
So I don't even know if that answered your question, Adam.
Well,
But
I
it's a
guess,
long, long,
but
long way.
so
And
you do all this training, you do all
yeah,
this research, you obviously have seven pillars, but when you land in Saudi Arabia, like there must have been some surprises. There must have been some elements that you were not expecting, and what were those, and how did you tackle those, and
there
control that?
was a surprise a minute, right? Um, and most of the surprises were because of our expectations and prejudices,
Hmm.
right? And I'll start with this one. We had met a young man who
Hmm.
was a member of Seeds of Peace. It's a charitable organization that has done great work bringing together um, uh, Muslims, Jews, and others from around the world and putting them in camp together, right? With the idea that eventually they would know each other when they grew up and they were in positions of power. This kid was great. He says, "Oh, you know what? You're going to do Lawrence's trek? You got to meet my dad." And in no time, the first big surprise was upon us. And we used the line in the book. We don't consider it offensive at all, and neither did he, and he's very proud that it's in there. But he said, "My name is Osama. Do not be afraid." Now, unpack that for a second. Here's two Americans, essentially, aside from Aramco, probably the first two Americans showing up on their own accord in Saudi Arabia to discover what was going on there.
At that
And
time.
so, what's the prejudice? Well, anybody named Osama must be bad.
Right.
And he was the sweetest guy. And he stuck with us throughout our entire time there. Many, many trips back following our trek.
He opened doors.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So I guess maybe that's a good question. Is you started off with a plan. I'm assuming, although knowing you guys, there might have been a gray area. But
There was a
how
direction.
there was a direction, okay. But how much did that veer off the path based on people you met or new experiences you discovered? I mean, how much leeway did you have with traveling through this or on this journey? Did you have a lot of a lot of
It
side quests, if you will?
was all a veer. There was a direction, but um, yeah, I'm thinking of plenty of stories. But
Yeah,
Wells's eyes just lit up, so he can do the first one.
Well, it's just that we had a plan to get from point A to point B to C to D, and then we would veer off as situations
sure.
arose. One, getting up the coast of the Red Sea, going north from Jeddah, landing it. I mean, the first one that really stands out to me is Yambo in the middle of the night. We're coming in, we have a driver, and it's not an SUV, it's his car
Mhm.
and it's very low key and we're hungry and speaks very little English but he understood we needed something to eat and this is just before midnight
Sure.
and it's
Wow.
dark and there's no cars out, there's no one around. We pull into this town and it turns out to be Yambo, and he gets us into a cafe. We go into the cafe. It's fluorescent lighting and a couple of what do you call them? Fish tanks that have fish. You select your fish. They dip it into a frying thing and serve it. And we're just about ready to eat. And a police officer comes in and asks for our passports. Why are you here?
Mhm.
Passports. And it's the first round of wow. How did he know we're here? He said, I saw you come through the light. And he turned out to be a wonderful individual that ended up paying for our food. He looked at our passports and looking back at us, and you could just hear him breathing through his nose. He was flipping through all the places we've been. And he
Oh
says, where
wow.
are you from? Miles says, New York. He says, I love New York. I said, where are you? He says, where are you from? I say, Santa Fe. Oh, that's near Arizona. I know people go to the University of Arizona.
Oh, that's great.
And it was just one thing after another. But bottom line, it was after midnight in a very, remote, unusual cafe with a couple of tables, and they served us. No one was around. And then, what was his name? Talbot.
All the
Yeah. And
Wow.
he was very kind to us.
Sure.
And as we leave, he says, I love New York.
Well, now here's where it veers again, right? The greasy fish certainly helped
Right.
our sustenance, but we realized that Yenba was a fortress town of T.E. Lawrence. And Thamer or someone else said, like, you know what? There's restoration of the house that perhaps T.E. Lawrence had as his headquarters. It's like, well, it's midnight, it's 12:30 now. It's like, let's roll. It's a full moon. Let's go.
Sure. Oh
And we
wow.
did.
Yeah.
And we toured this house with a guy that, came out of nowhere. Oh, yes, I'm the one fixing it up. It's like, great. And there were these beautiful tiles that were clearly 100 plus years old.
Yeah. Wow.
many of which had been restored and reapplied, but some of which were loose. This was the beginning of our trip, and we're walking around with a backpack. And one thing that you learn pretty quickly in Saudi is when you say that is beautiful, they immediately offer it to you.
Oh,
It's interesting.
And,
lovely.
and so we were presented with tiles that perhaps T.E. Lawrence himself had walked upon 100 years ago.
Wow.
And we took them in our backpacks and they made it all through 31 checkpoints on foot. And there was one border that was convinced that it was plastic explosives, which it
Oh
was
no.
not.
Yeah.
And we brought them home and we have them today.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that goes to veering off the path. That
Yeah.
goes to the unbelievable hospitality of the Saudis.
Hmm.
Um, it goes to the historic restoration of, in this case, a fort on the coast, but they've done many more since then.
Sure.
And we might even veer into the fact that we were there at the very beginning of the recognition that perhaps tourism could be a second business for
Yeah.
Saudi and actually a destination beyond the religious Mecca and Medina, but
Mhm.
actually a destination for others to come. They
Sure.
have looked at Dubai um, with a certain degree of desire
Mhm.
because of what they had done in terms of development and tourism, et cetera. It really was the first gem of the Middle East. And my point of view was that many Saudis that we met, especially those in travel and tourism, looked to Dubai as inspiration.
Okay.
We can do that. We
Sure.
have the spots. We can make it so.
Right.
And my understanding is that if we were to return, and we fully intend to,
Yes.
it's a different town.
And you're speaking specifically of Riyadh
No,
or it
just actually the country.
okay.
Because it's changed. When we were there, Adam, it was 2006. Between 2006, 2008, we had multiple trips in Saudi and different areas. And so this is an amalgamation of all the from our trek to the extended version of going to different places. But it was very clear that the desire was to use the resources that they had, and they had just spectacular sites of antiquity,
Hmm.
structures that have been around for eons.
Sure. Yeah.
And so they were recognizing, and we saw perhaps none of the beginning. This is 20 years ago
Yeah.
of the reconstruction, like the fortress in Yembo. And the gentleman that said, "Oh, we're redoing it," and we have pictures. We'll get some pictures of that up with
Mhm.
along with this talk of the fortress. And I'm sure the comparison of what they've done, what we saw, and what has been done since is just magnificent.
Well, if you look at Red Sea Global, if you look at NEOM, you look at the line, you look at the entire Vision 2030
Sure.
There you go. There
from
you go.
Mohammed bin Salman, right? This is a continuation of that nascent momentum that we saw at the time. You talk about a restoration, it was on our way down to Asir.
Mhm.
There was a restoration that was going on. You can bring up those photos. It was an announcement of the Red Sea Festival that we were actually part of the production. Again, back to the event production that we mentioned at the beginning,
Hmm.
but we were selected to help out with that. And this was a announcement of it, but it was done at a location. Wells, help me out.
It's Rijolama. It's that beautiful gingerbread fairy tale place, and we saw it in at night, so it truly was magical.
Yeah.
Rijolama.
Okay.
Anyone can look it up, and it's a piece of old Saudi Arabia, the old peninsula. It goes back hundreds of years.
Hmm.
But that's where the ceremony was held, and it was filled. And we were there with His Royal Highness Prince Khalid and His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Salman, the astronaut that flew with the United States.
Sure.
And we had made friends with particularly with Prince Salman, bin Salman. So
Can
there's
I ask
Prince.
how did you even get introduced to the prince? Was this
Very slowly, and then
okay?
all of a sudden.
Okay.
When you,
Uh,
well, I'll tell you, when you get invited, we thought of it as being invited inside the tent.
yeah,
It the graciousness, and as Miles indicated, when you say, "Oh, what a beautiful watch,"
sure.
be careful. It could end up on your wrist. I
Oh,
mean, and there is a care and a graciousness that we felt from being inside the tent. You are under their protection. And
yeah,
that goes back to what we learned from T.E. Lawrence. So we found that to be actual from what he said in his storytelling and his narrative, we experienced firsthand.
yeah.
Right.
And we didn't have just one audience. We had multiple audiences with various members of stature within Saudi Arabia of the royal family.
Well, let's talk about another author and um, friend and patron that really enabled our trek, and we got to work for him. That was Prince Khalid, His Royal
Yeah.
Highness. He's an artist, Oxford educated,
Mhm.
also an author. I happen to have a book. I signed a book for him,
Oh,
right?
right.
That's the only
And
book I
you
had at the time, but we exchanged books. I still have his book of
Oh, that's
poetry,
and
amazing.
right?
Miles, you understand that book had been out for 20 years, but no one knew who wrote it.
Yeah.
And he had just recently, at the time we met him, 2006, it was revealed that he was the author. He was a beloved prince
Yeah.
and he was the governor of the Asir province in Saudi at the time we were there.
Right. But I recall a gathering of the sheikhs, which we were invited to. I heard it the first time as Majlis or Majlis. Once again, Saudis and all Arabic is sort of, when you transliterate it back to English, the rule in Lawrence's books and in mine and Wells is close enough.
Mhm.
Close enough. So
We'll
in any event,
understand.
we're invited, come by, come by my palace. We'll have dinner. But first, it was all the sheikhs reporting on their recent visit to Mecca. Um, and we got to listen in. It was a great honor.
Wow. Oh, that
We were
yeah, I was gonna
getting
say
tired,
that's
nearly fell asleep. There's a chapter in it in the book. Um, and then uh, the prince went to pray, but we met out in the portico for a hello, first time. And he said, "You'll come to dinner." Of course, it's like 10 o'clock at night, right? You'll come to dinner. I said, well, he said, of course. He says, "You will see. We are not all terrorists. I will go pray now." So, what that told me was that he would even be so concerned as to make a joke about that
yeah,
because our impressions as Americans may have been, our prejudices may have been exactly that.
sure.
They were, Mr. Spencer. That's why we were there. We wanted to see if this held up.
Mhm.
The United States headlines was about all about retribution,
Wow.
and the Saudis, the prevailing thought were Arabs were bad, and we
Yeah.
just couldn't buy it. We just didn't buy it.
Mhm.
We have
That's
to go see for ourselves. Nara, bi, ayun, ina. See it with our own eyes, right?
I've got to imagine that being invited to these meetings, being to these dinners, that just from a storytelling perspective, that they must have just given you a wealth of stories. Does any stick out? Do you have any like, or at least moments of storytelling?
Well, the whole
Oh,
book
okay, fair.
is just a massive story that, I think at the end of the day,
Mhm.
and the project that we both, all three, work on, and Wells has a neon sign behind, is Reflekta, which is essentially intergenerational storytelling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what better way to demonstrate that we're living it than telling the stories that we've experienced? Now,
Hmm.
look, I mean, this is the memory device of a period,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Um, what we realized is that, as attractive as books are, and bestseller here and Amazon there, and when you get intergenerational with the stories, love her as I might, my granddaughter or my great granddaughter, who I don't know yet, will never look at chapter 7, page 32
In a book.
in a
Mhm.
book to dig out a story about Pop Pop.
Right.
Um, and to be able to have a spontaneous and dynamic conversation with a recognizable image and likeness, which
Hmm.
is exactly what Reflekta delivers,
Sure.
allows the future generations not to have to access a Polaroid picture or a book or all the other things that are upstairs in the attic gathering
Mhm.
dust, right?
Oh
Those
yeah.
were the best technologies of the time. Well, he's got some technology behind him. He's a paratrooper. He's got but photos to remind him of those stories.
Mhm.
You have the Garrotypes. We have the Rosetta Stone. We have charcoal on caves. We have the monks that were writing in the name of the rose.
Mhm.
It's great. Did the best possible technology at the time for preserving these stories and telling them over generations. We'll talk more about Reflecta later, but
Yeah.
but you know, the book, and it's not our last. What Magnus and Finn are back in Havana next month, and that will be out on Amazon as well. But this is the soul of what we all do, and that is preserve stories and legacy and values and morals for future generations.
Hmm.
And the stories that are contained in Saudi among the Saudi people were spectacular.
Sure.
And we look forward to being able to document and share those as well.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Gosh, yeah, I feel like storytelling is not an American thing. It is a worldwide preserver of history and uh, teaching, and it's just that's sort of the language of humanity is just this storytelling. And I think that if we can capture that and bring that to everyone, it's truly a magical thing.
Well, I got a story for you. Wells, you can kick in anytime. So, some of the executives from Aramco we got very close with,
Mhm.
now a public company, wasn't at the time. It was a weekend. So, you guys going back to London and Dubai for the weekend? So, no, we're going to stick around because we were invited by this high-ranking marketing officer for Aramco. And so, what you guys gonna do? It's like, we're going to a camel beauty contest. We called it Gemel Jam, right?
Okay.
Gemel is camel. And um, sure enough, we took a drive with our hosts. Well, didn't we pull off to the side of the road and have some curdled milk out of a gourd?
We literally did. And it was warm camel's milk in out of a jar. And it was the first time that I wasn't feeling I'd had a tooth pulled,
Oh
you
no.
know, about 48 hours before in New York. And I'd got on a plane. At any rate, yes. And
Ooh,
they
that puts hair on your
spoke
chest, and I don't have
they
much.
were exposing us. We said, we want to do what you do. We want to eat what
Yeah.
you eat. We want to be involved. And they just said, Allah, okay, let's go.
Awesome.
I
It's
took a
like,
sip and said, "Shukran. Let's move on."
Yeah.
We get to the camel beauty contest, and each one of the princes that had been arrived had their, kind of sponsored group of camels. I don't know if that's a flock or a gang or what we call
So,
that technically in the animal kingdom,
mhm.
but
From
bring up
the
the pictures. They're these
Yeah.
funny,
beautiful animals.
Yeah.
What about like 10, like 20 in a pack, something like
well,
that.
they said that 50 are selected from each
Yeah.
Mhm.
area, and
Uh,
then the sheikhs that own these are the wealthy people of the desert.
Yeah.
The camel owners are is where the local wealth is. They're not businessmen, they're desert Bedouins.
Yeah.
And
And
once a year
to a
they
certain
come to
extent, that is the Saudi culture. They are Bedouins. They're people of the desert. That's what T.E. Lawrence documented. That's what he brought together temporarily
Mhm.
during the Arab Revolt. And they have these traditions, many of which we detail in our book, because we live them, right?
Yeah.
we
And
witnessed it. Absolutely.
so they allowed us, and we would like, clearly it's like the Americans, they're here and they let them do what they want. So we want to go pet the camels. Like, well, no one does that, but okay. And so there are these
Sticking out
wonderful
like a
pictures.
sore thumb,
One of them,
like an American.
one of them saw those big juicy lips that Wells had, and so like, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
right.
yeah, let me show you mine. And so there's a picture of Wells kissing a camel, or vice versa. That is epic.
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful. And the photographs from that day,
Yeah.
yeah, this was not professional photography. We're walking around with our own little clicker. No, not really. iPhone hadn't come out yet, right? So we
Yeah.
had these tiny little cameras we can get what we can. We'd always ask.
Sure. Of course.
And there are these wonderful pictures, and our hosts sit us in the front row
Yeah.
with the gold leafed plush chairs.
Right.
And it was something to behold. It was a beauty show. So it finishes. They pick the winner. I think the winner gets like F1.
Hummers.
Yeah, they get
They were
truck.
Hummers.
They get the
They were Hummers.
were they Hummers? Yeah,
Oh,
I thought
Yes.
they
wow.
were. Yeah, no, I thought they were F-150, like the
It
Toyotas.
was it was the
Yeah,
big Hummer.
right.
The guy that, three Hummers were given away. The
Those are the
black guy,
prize. That's the prize,
that was a prize.
right?
That seems pretty great. That's a
Right.
nice price.
Yeah, and once again, it kind of is an underpinning of the relationship between the U.S. and Saudi, that they would give Hummers as a prize, and we'll come back to that relationship in a minute, and I'll finish up with the camel. Now, T.E. Lawrence wrote about the utility of the camel, right?
Mhm.
It's like the caravan of the desert. It's a steamship of the desert. It carried people to the Holy Land of Mecca and Medina before the railroad was built. It would be by camel,
Yeah.
right? It is shelter in a storm and
Mhm.
warmth in a storm. The hair is used for, you bring a picture of
Clothes,
the
tents,
yeah, absolutely, tents, formal
clothes.
wear, etc.
Yeah.
And then Wells and I, of course, being Americans and having had a long day, said, "What's for lunch?"
Uh-oh.
Bring up the picture. Um, the punchline is kind of tastes like chicken.
Got it. I hope it wasn't
So
the camel that just won.
probably not. At
Okay.
the end of the day, the camel has one more purpose,
Got it. Yeah.
And
right?
Well,
Lawrence brought
that's
that out. Lawrence noted that
yeah.
in the utility of a camel and
Mhm.
its ability to handle the weather, the sandstorms, the basalt, the sand dunes, and provide and give. And in the end, it really did. It provided sustenance. It's food. And
Yeah.
it's just you see on the table a big hump of meat and chefs with tall chef hats and long sabers that are just
Yeah. Sure.
and and for us, we just greeted all of this with just being very present and willing to try anything. And it, like Miles said, tastes like chicken. I mean, that's a joke, but we were told it's very high in protein and it
Yeah.
wasn't foul at all. I mean, look at all the different meats that we eat foul game and
Sure.
all the different stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Um, I touched briefly on the history between the United States um, and Saudi,
mm,
and our resident historian Wells
mm.
um, could give a little history lesson on what we learned in research of the book.
Sure.
But it starts with a little boat trip that FDR took to the Red Sea, right, Wells?
It does. And the interesting thing, it wasn't long after the creation of a nation. It was the Arabian Peninsula until 1932,
Mhm.
when, Abdulaziz bin Abdul Rahman Al Saud, became the leader, the first king of Saudi Arabia, a new title. And not long after that, getting with our president, and even Saud had never been out of his country,
Mm.
never been on a ship, never been out on the water. And he was on board ship with a very ill President Franklin Roosevelt making a deal. What was the deal, Miles?
Well, my understanding is this. Look, America had been through some wars. It became clear that oil was going to be crucial to America's war machine.
Mhm.
It's 1945 when they met on
Cor-
Valentine's Day, of all
Correct.
things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It
So
was
this is,
shortly after the Battle of the Bulge. The Battle
gonna
of the
say, this
Bulge,
is,
Bingo.
famously, the Panzer tanks of the Nazis ran out of fuel.
Mhm.
Their fuel source was all the way back in Bulgaria. And so
Okay.
the tanks basically stopped in the Ardennes Forest because they had no more fuel.
Mhm.
Down to the Red Sea goes President Roosevelt, and he
Yeah.
says, uh, let's cut a deal. My understanding. I think a handshake, right?
Right.
We will never run out of oil. You will make it so. And you will never be overthrown, either from within your country or from outside. We will make it so.
Mhm.
Deal. Whether or not that pact actually existed, if you look at history over the following 75 years,
Mhm.
it's pretty hard to disprove,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
So that began the relationship between the Americans and the Saudis. Now,
Mhm.
Aramco was basically a SoCal of California operation that built the infrastructure together with the Saudis that extracted the natural resources and basically powered the growth of America together with the rest of the world. And it was a wonderful symbiotic relationship that had gone on for so long. This
Mhm.
is one of the reasons that the people in Saudi Arabia were, in our opinion, were so welcoming because a couple of guys in a plane had blown it for them reputationally,
Right.
and they just weren't that way. We generalize about an entire population here, but our experience was they just weren't that way.
Right.
And so now we're just so happy to see um, Prince Mohammed bin Salman together with President Trump,
Right.
first hosting an international delegation
Mhm.
of AI professionals and doing a phenomenal bet on the modernization of Saudi by way of AI.
Sure.
And then following up, being hosted in the White House together with those same people.
Mhm.
And it really, for us, was kind of like full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
That blip of 2001
Mhm.
is being repaired.
Yeah.
And, the only way onward is through it.
Yeah.
And it's from our perspective, it's just a wonderful thing to see. So it's full circle from that visit from President Roosevelt. And now
Sure.
on we go with a new project.
I mean, it is absolutely brilliant on the part of Saudi Arabia to invest in AI and technology and become a worldwide competitor to technology and to be a hub for where technology is going. I think it's just it makes perfect sense for them, especially as they probably move away from oil towards something else. They're kind of future proofing themselves uh, into into the next century. So it's lovely to see.
And it disproves something and proves something. It just proves that they are, not with the program. When we were there in 2006, the concern about women, the concern about they're not allowed to drive, just cultural practices that they had.
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia is so new. We are celebrating as the United States 250 years. It's our birthday this year.
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia has been around for 90 years. Look at the progressive nature of the thinking.
Yeah.
Mohammed bin Salman, certainly as a leader in the 2030 program,
Mhm.
this is radical, fast moving. What do you say, Miles? This is like a tsunami uh, of
Supersonic tsunami.
Yeah.
supersonic tsunami, and that the thinking, and that's what I go to, because that's what we went to see. What are the thoughts of these people?
Mhm.
Do they hate us? Is this, what's going on
Yeah.
with the reality of this war and the retribution and when's it going to end? And we look at today, after being there in 2006, 7, and 8, one with a great desire to return. I've looked up the advances since 2006 when we did the trek and 2020 or 2026. It's
Mhm.
just phenomenal what is happening
Sure.
at a rate that is and the beauty of what is happening, the structure. Miles talks about it from business structure and the AI, and I'm seeing just the advancement of culture
Mhm.
within and the recognition of their culture and world culture and being placed on the map as being so radically, beautifully progressive.
Mhm. And vitally important to the world at large. I think it's becoming
Exactly.
yeah.
A truly a world player, not because as we saw on the letterhead of the royal family, Saudi Arabia, the energy capital of the world. That's what we
Sure.
saw in 2006.
Yeah.
Now, what does it say? Where, you know, it's been moved into a whole current category at the top of the list.
Mm.
Well,
What do you
interestingly enough, you talk about energy. Maybe it's a good time to segue into our understanding of Humain, right? Which is the one project and technology that has been funded. I believe last week Aramco purchased half of it. And Humain's thesis, one of the theses, is from an AI standpoint. Number one, you have to have the energy.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to have the compute, the ability to process the energy into AI, right?
Yeah.
And
Of
so that was the reason for the visit that made the relationship come full circle, right?
course.
The compute of the world
Hmm.
showing up in Saudi and cutting a deal that allowed those chips to be there.
Hmm.
And um, then there's the third part. How are we going to consume all this compute capacity? Now, you know, we, we see every day a different application for AI and how quickly it's moving, et cetera, et cetera. But they've made this beautiful investment in video production through Humain. It's investment in Luma AI. And now we're starting to see some things from Luma together with a competitor from China.
Hmm.
Um, Seem to be neck and neck in terms of features at the moment.
Hmm.
Um, but, you know, we can make short videos and ads and things like that. But where is the content going to come from? The content's going to come from storytelling.
Hmm.
So part of this game will boil down to who's got the stories and who wants to consume them.
Sure.
And, a short shout
How
out.
are they captured and how are they captured?
Yeah.
Right. And so short shout out to Reflekta is
Mhm.
that's exactly what we're doing. And yeah, we don't have a story from CNN and a story from Fox News and a story from the Wall Street Journal and those stories that people research and write with a point of view and a certain distribution and a certain audience.
Hmm.
Ours are the legends and tales and intergenerational family stories
Yeah.
told by the families
Yeah.
for consumption by the families. Now, some of them
Legacy.
some of them be public, some of them are educational, etc.
Mhm.
But the vast majority of the 10,000 plus stories that have entered our platform in the last 6 months since launch,
Hmm.
they're family stories.
Yeah.
But unlike the shoebox, they actually have a chance,
Yeah.
a great
Access.
chance of
Yeah.
being intergenerational and spontaneous and dynamic in their conversation.
Hmm.
That's just never existed before.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's lovely.
You use that phrase a lot, Miles, spontaneous and dynamic. And it's accurate, absolutely. But giving voice, we call them reflections now. Giving voice to a reflection, could be of yourself, or it could be a loved one, someone you've lost. It means preserving more than just a name or a moment. It means capturing a recognizable likeness, image, and likeness
Hmm.
that can engage in spontaneous, dynamic conversation now,
Yeah.
in the moment. You're talking with your family's talking with you. The reflection is of you. Papa, were you like when you were 10 years old? What did you do when you were 6 years old? Where did you go to school? Not anecdotes. It's coming from a voice that is the reflection, is a piece of the reflection, the
Yeah.
essence of a person, either with us or not with us. Living legacy
Hmm.
or honoring someone in the past so that a family traditions and values can be passed on intergenerationally. It's identity.
Now,
Yeah.
it's important to note half the audience won't like this. If you go to the comments on any one of our social and Reflekta, it's Black Mirror, The Giver, Her, Ghostbusters, Digital Necromancy, Uncanny Valley, Conjuring Up Spirits, Prolonging Grief. Yeah, okay. Yeah, half the world is probably not going to get their arms around this, and we're fine with that. We'll be here when they do. Um, and the rest absolutely love it because we're not reincarnating anyone.
Mm.
There are no more hugs. There's no more wiffle ball games. There's no more walks in the park with the dog. My father's last words to me were, "This body is temporal. Um, my spirit and soul are eternal, and when you can reconnect with that, you'll have me the rest of your life."
Mm.
And luckily, 9 months ago, Adam and I looked at each other and said, like, you know what? We could build this.
Hmm.
Um, and we did. And so, back to the what this means to our relationship in Saudi. There's so many stories, both from us and from the Middle East, that
Hmm.
deserve to be told and held and passed through the generations.
Very much so.
It's memory stewardship, Miles, wouldn't you say, Adam?
Yeah. I love
Same.
it. I think, yeah, it's for so long, stories were told to you, and now they're told with you. and it's much more of an interaction, and you get something out of it and you can kind of direct it, but then the reflection can kind of help you direct it. So it's
Mhm.
not just like reading a book. It's much more dynamic, and it's really a fascinating way to not only preserve stories, but to know that your stories are going to carry on, and that, as Miles pointed out, his grandchildren are going to read stories about him, or understand
Mhm.
these conversations and have these conversations with him, even if he's no longer with us.
And it's
Sorry to
not
put
an
you on the spot, Miles.
opinion. These stories aren't opinions. They're the real McCoy. They're undeniable.
Sure.
And that's what we found going through the Middle East, starting in Jeddah, listening to people's stories,
Mm,
taking that pause and listening. And you find you listen autobiographically, so you're relating constantly as you hear another story, you
yeah,
know, and it expands our perspective on another culture. And that's how we went through the Middle East, constantly expanding our perspective
yeah,
of who and what they were. It's not, drop what you've heard, look at what you're seeing and experiencing, what you're witnessing now.
absolutely.
And then it's the coming back, and we say, well, what are we going to do with all this information? We got to tell a story.
Yeah.
Tell the story. And Reflekta opens up the world to being able to tell a story where, consent to the story is forwarded by design, where, where it becomes a memory trustee, a legacy steward
Mm,
of individuals. They voice, keeping voice alive and an essence of an individual alive
mhm.
now. Why wait until the end to say, well, what do they do?
Right.
How about a living legacy? How
Yeah.
about something now, a story now
Hmm.
that we can pass on? And the individual controls, the editor, you might call them the editor, controls where that reflection goes.
Hmm.
What is added to that reflection? Family have more things to add to it. It's to me, it's just the most amazing next step in this era of storytelling
Hmm.
and of humanity, of expanding our ability for peace, for
Yeah.
empathy.
Yeah.
And when I heard that Humain wants to open this to all of Saudi Arabia, and even the title, when Tariq Amin, the leader of this, speaks of it, and his desire and his points that this humane because we want to be humane, and
Mhm.
Reflecta is soul tech. It's bringing humanity and AI together, but AI does not control. AI is not the actor.
No, it's the
Well,
engine, but not the actor.
interesting to talk about humanity and AI in the same breath. We were at AI4, which is where we launched in Vegas at the end of the summer last year. And it was Gartner Group that actually read our Soul Tech white paper. It's like now everybody else here is talking about shaving 1/1000th of a second from a compute and how many middle market jobs we can get rid of with these bots. And a lot of people that are behind the eight ball on AI are afraid for their future, afraid for their jobs. There's fear that comes with this. There's fear
Mhm.
that comes with change. And I gave my solo talk. It kind of wasn't a dry eye in the place. And I walked back with the team to the booth. And what I kept hearing was, gosh, you're like AI, but for humanity.
That's it.
And so we said, thank you. But when we discovered Humane and started to understand what their position was as well, was like, and of course the name spelled AI, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. How can we work with these cats?
Yeah.
And well, where they're from? They're from Saudi Arabia. There you go. And what are they doing? As we've already mapped out, it's like, well, there you go. And so we're at the precipice of this wonderful opportunity of basically serving humanity
Mm.
through AI, each in our own way. And some people have asked, like, is this the best business you've ever launched? And the way I summed it up on a podcast earlier this week was if you summed up all of the businesses and all the jobs and all the exits and all the failures of the 30, 40 years I've been doing this and total them all up, they pale in comparison to the impact on humanity that Reflekta can make.
So, in summary, oil changed the world because it powered everything. And AI is actually going to change the world because it touches everyone. So, stories decide how we remember ourselves inside that future. Miles Spencer, Wells Jones, thank you guys so much for joining me. Go read A Line in the Sand. It's a fantastic book. It'll open your eyes about Saudi Arabia, and it's full of adventure and beauty and friendship, and it's one of my favorites.
Thank you, Adam.